Okay, this Dell XPS 14, the new one, is one badass Mamba Jamba. Dude, I don't think that's a term. You know, somebody called me old the other day in my comment section. I'm 37. I'm not old, not that old. Anyway, the Dell XPS. Let's talk about it. Now, I want to be very clear here. I'm going to be comparing this computer to the MacBook Pro pretty often in this video. And the reason why is because even though the MacBook Pro across the board is slightly more expensive, it's not that much more expensive. And if we're going to be comparing apples to oranges, well, we might as well compare Dell's premium 14-inch computer to Apple's premium 14-inch computer. And the fact is that the Mac is better. Now, this is probably one of, if not the best 14-inch computer you can buy in the PC world. I mean, this thing is, I can't stress this enough. I recommend it. It's a good computer. But Dell wanted to create the best of the 14-inch category, and they simply missed the mark, whereas Apple hit the mark in almost every single category. And when you compare Intel's chips to Apple's new M4 architecture, I mean, it's a no-brainer. The M4 absolutely wipes the floor with Intel. The trackpad may be one of the best examples as to how it's not quite as good as a Mac. I mean, I really think it's interesting that they got rid of the trackpad like altogether. I mean, it's minimalist as it comes. You cannot see it, although interestingly enough, like if you run your finger along the bottom here, like where your palms go, it does have an actuation area. So basically the trackpad exists just like a little bit beyond the space bar. It's interesting that they didn't just put like lines on there or something to indicate, but I guess they just wanted to keep it minimalist and simple, which, you know, fine. It works and it's not really a problem. With that said, Apple has had basically more than a decade to perfect their touchpad. In fact, I may even do a video on that altogether. Whereas Dell is only now getting into the haptic feedback touchpad game. And while it's good, it feels tactile and it is overall responsive, it's not quite as good as Apple's. It is just a hair, and I'm talking about milliseconds slower to actuate than Apple's is. And while that's not a big deal in like 99% of cases, and practically speaking it probably won't do a whole lot, it's still noticeable. It's just a showcase in how Apple's touchpad is in fact just a little bit better. And that's okay. I mean, again, I applaud Dell for trying something new, but they do need to polish it just a little bit more. Now, the same can't quite be said for the keyboard, but I do have one large complaint, and that is that they're using the same color keys as they are the material of the laptop. And my problem with that is simply that when you use light color keycaps and you have the backlight on, the keys are almost impossible to see. And yes, most people can just type with the home row, but not everybody has that talent. Some people need to look at the keys, and it does kind of blend them in a little bit too much. I know that Dell was trying to make this sort of beautiful minimalist aesthetic, but they should have just stuck with black keycaps. Apple did it, it was smarter, and they need to do it too. With that said, the keys are very responsive, they feel fantastic, they're mechanical, they're loud, they're clicky, I love them. It is a fantastic keyboard, but Dell, make them black. Now, the function row at the top is an interesting one. Apple released their touch bar a few years ago, and by all accounts it was a failed experiment. In fact, Apple doesn't even have a touch bar on any of their modern computers. Dell, on the other hand, decided that they weren't going to make a little like LCD screen at the top. Everything is basically static as to like what you can press up there, but the fact is that it is touch and it does have like a little backlight on it. But I can't help but think that there was no functional purpose for actually doing that with this machine. They could have very easily just made them tactile function keys like they have on all their other laptops. This is just one of those things that could potentially break and have a problem, and I don't think that it necessarily added any additional benefit by being this way. So while I don't hate what they did here, I think that it looks very beautiful and very modern, I think that maybe going back to a functional function row would be a better option. I mean, when you hit the FN button on the keyboard, it does change them over to F1 through F12, but like still, it's just basically a little like static screen up there. And now let's talk about the display. 14.5 inches, FHD plus, basically means it's like an almost 2K panel. Non-touch, 500 nit brightness. Super colorful, super deep blacks, and very bright whites. It is an absolutely gorgeous display. But for $400 more in the base level model on the MacBook Pro, you get an almost 4K panel. And not to mention the Apple display is a ProMotion panel with 120 Hz refresh rate instead of 60. Now, one thing though that is worth noting that I love that Dell did out the gate was they're sort of like a matte coating over this display. And it makes it very, very easy to use underneath bright lights, sunlight, college campus, in a cafe, you get the idea. It's wonderful. And it is very bright. It is almost 500 nits. When we tested the brightness, it was, I think, clocking in somewhere at around like 470. With that said, though, you can, for 150 bucks, get the nano texture coating on the, or etching on the Apple display. I do think that the Apple display is better and potentially better bang for your buck unless you add the nano etching. With that said, though, Dell should have given you just, again, a little something more for 1,100 bucks. This isn't really just about comparing this to a MacBook Pro at this point. This is now comparing value of this against the Inspiron 14, which, by the way, is one of my favorite laptops that you can buy. But the Inspiron 14 is a $500 to $600 laptop, and this is over twice the price. But is it worth twice the value? In terms of features, Dell covered pretty much every avenue you would want. You've got every Windows Hello compatible option out there. You've got really nice quality webcam built in. This is the quality you can expect from the webcam on the Dell XPS 14. Absolutely fantastic for office productivity stuff. And you got all the security features in terms of enclaves and that businessy type crap. And I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, really, there's just not a whole lot more that you need feature-wise from these computers. I mean, again, backlights on the keyboard. In general, most computers are coming very luxuriously equipped today. It's kind of like Kias and Hyundais. Like even the cheap ones have like a lot of bells and whistles in them. Now let's talk about size and weight, because boy, let me tell you, this girl is thick. This is the MacBook Pro is 0.71 inches. Thick. The Dell is 0.61, and it is almost a quarter of a pound heavier. That doesn't make a huge difference in real world application, but what I believe it does is shows Apple's ability to cram a bunch of shit on the inside of something really, really small and still make it perform like a bat out of hell. Whereas this thing is just kind of hindered a little bit. Most computers these days are so light and thin that you won't have a problem whipping them out in an airport and throwing them in the little plastic bin before TSA shoves their hands up your ass. But with that said, if you want the thinnest, lightest, most best engineered product, once again, I'm looking at Apple in the spotlight. This is made, however, of some very premium materials. The hinge absolutely feels great. It's robust, it's strong. It is a really, really well-built laptop. But it is something to buy. Well, you know, this is a review channel, right? So we're just letting you know that this one is, in fact, a little bit bigger. Battery life on it, you will get all day of practical use. In our tests, we have such variance because whether you're doing video, watching videos, or just surfing the internet, typing a document, you're gonna get such different levels of battery life. We don't like to give a concrete number, and manufacturers all lie about what that number is anyway. All is to say that if you are a student, traveler, somebody going in and out of an airport, whatever, you will have no problem at all with the battery life. All right, we just have some final bases to cover before we come to our conclusion. Let's talk about I/O really quick. You got micro SD card, USB 3, TRRR jack on there, so basically microphone, speakers, and then you've got additional 2 Thunderbolt ports there on the side. All is to say that I/O on it is fantastic, and Dell is kind enough to give you a little Thunderbolt to, or rather USB-C to USB Type A and full-size HDMI adapter. That is really, really nice because Apple wouldn't give you a fucking adapter to save you from a burning building. And so that is a nice touch that Dell was willing to give this as part of the package. The XPS line has always been one cut above the Inspiron line. It is Dell's premium line before you get into Alienware, and it's kind of good for business people, kind of good for residential people. The Inspirons are of course there for like people that don't want to spend a whole lot of money and break the bank. I think that this is a fabulous computer. It does the XPS line justice. I just don't know how much better than an Inspiron this is for literally like 2 or 3 times the cost. And I get that you're getting the cutting edge of everything, the best processors, DDR5, more storage capabilities, better NVMe, you get the idea. But I don't know, I'm struggling a little bit. By the way, memory on this thing's baked in. You can't upgrade it, but you can upgrade the storage, which is nice. So that's at least one nice little perk. Apple doesn't let you do that. I'm sorry that I compared this thing to the MacBook Pro so much in this video. That wasn't my original goal or intention. But if I'm going to review this thing and benchmark it and put it up against anything, that's just where we're at. By the way, as far as benchmarks are concerned, as is usual on this channel, I don't like to do benchmarks for performance because computers are so fast these days anyway. This thing is going to be plenty fast for anybody that uses it. And there are also plenty of videos showcasing Intel versus the new Apple M4 if you are all curious. There's plenty of stuff on YouTube. So in conclusion, is this the best 14-inch computer that you can buy? Not even slightly. It's a great computer. It's not bad, and I would absolutely recommend it to anybody looking for a high-end, fabulous 14-inch laptop in the PC world. But if you are somebody willing to go over to the Apple realm, without question, either the MacBook Pro M4s, which admittedly are more expensive, or the 13.6-inch MacBook Air, is still a better overall computer. There's nothing that this offers that's necessarily better than those machines. And this isn't me being some Apple fanboy, because I promise you I'm not. It's just simply they are better computers overall. But would I recommend one of these to anybody looking for a good PC? Absolutely. Anyway, hope this video was helpful. Please reach out to us if you have any questions in our comment section. Let us know what you think. Please like and subscribe, and we'll be back with another video really soon.